Hi, this is Marcus with Recon Power Bikes, and today we're going to talk about the general maintenance of cleaning your drivetrain on your Recon e-bike. As important as this maintenance is for your bicycle, we tend to see how many people do neglect it. It's quite simple, and it's not something that you're going to do in certain intervals, like a certain mileage. It really comes down to a visual. Uh, you're seeing it, and you notice there's a lot of dirt and sand in your chain, or it's just making some weird grinding noises. And when that tends to happen, it's very important to actually take the time to clean your bike. So when we talk about the visual of looking at a dirty drivetrain, the first thing to notice is how dirty the cassette is. So each gear, there's some sort of dirt or debris that's stuck in between the cogs, but also the chain. It's quite dry. And not only visually can you tell that it's dirty, but one of the things is you can listen while you're riding. So when you're shifting through the gears or you're pedaling down the road, you're going to hear some grinding noise or the chain might start to squeak. So when that happens, definitely it's time to clean it. All right, a few things that you're going to need to successfully clean your drivetrain. Some chain degreaser. Typically, it can be found any local bike shop. You might even have something that's similar, but a lot of times make it bike specific. Chain lube after your drivetrain is clean. Now they do make a wet and dry specific chain lube. It's really just going to be dependent on which one you use on the different elements you're riding in. Snow, rain, any type of water, you're going to use something like a wet lube. Dry surfaces, you're going to use something more of a dry. Some sort of towel. The towel is super important not only to once you rinse off the drivetrain to get a lot of that debris off, but as well as protecting your brake caliper. So one of the important things when we're spraying these chemicals like a chain degreaser on the cassette and chain, you might get some overspray, which can contaminate not only the rotor, but the pads. So if you do contaminate the rotor, we can clean that generally a lot better than the pads. But once the pads are compromised, then your braking power is going to be compromised. And last but not least, what I like to use, a nice bucket of soapy water and a good brush. All right, the first step I'm going to do is take our towel and we're actually going to wrap the brake caliper. Again, the reason for doing this is when we spray the degreaser, we're trying to prevent any overspray of the dirt, grime, or any type of chemical from getting on the rotor and or contaminating the pads. Another important thing when using the degreaser is when you're spray in a downward motion. Try not to spray in towards the wheel. What can happen is that's where the overspray starts. So definitely come in. Again, work at it spraying in a downward motion, and you'll start to see all of that dirt and debris and grime fall straight off the cassette. Once that's done, the next thing we're going to want to do is actually spray the chain. All right, now that the degreaser has been sprayed on the cassette and a little bit of the chain, now let's actually take the soapy water and kind of really fine tune the cleaning as well as that chain. So using this brush and a little bit of soapy water, we're going to go in and now actually scrub the cassette and the chain. Go ahead and get the pulleys on the derailleur. Sometimes you'll notice there could be some grass or some dirt that's built up on those pulleys, which does prevent those actually spinning smoothly. All right, now that we got quite a bit of soap and water on the areas that need to be cleaned, you can give it a good rinse with just some normal water. So like I said in the earlier part of the video, it's super important to make sure that this drivetrain is clean. And after looking at, do your visual inspection and make sure that every last bit of the chain is clean. If it's not, one thing you can do if you do not have a bike stand is go ahead and put the kickstand down, lean the bike back towards you, and then take your soapy rag and actually turn the pedals and just really work on cleaning that chain. Another thing that you can do is actually then look at the cassette, take that towel, and work on cleaning again in between each gear. It's not about how fast you can clean your bike, it's about how well you can clean your bike. So take your time and make sure everything is spotless before we dry up the drivetrain and apply the lubricant. All right, so after taking the chain degreaser as well as the soapy water, you notice that the actual cassette and chain are much cleaner. You see a little bit of shine in the chain, and notice that in between each gear, you're not seeing that built up dirt, debris, or grime that's actually inside the cassette. So now it's super important once this is totally clean that you allow the drivetrain to totally dry before we move on to put the chain lube on. All right, now that everything's nice and dry, go ahead and tilt the bike back again on the kickstand. Grab that pedal, take your chain lube, and actually apply, run a couple revolutions, some chain lubricant on the chain. Once you've done that, give it a good couple pedal strokes and revolutions to allow that lubricant to work itself in the chain and on the cog. All right, now that we've actually gone through a couple revolutions with the chain, now it's time to shift it to work that lubricant not only in the chain, but also through each gear. So just lean the bike back on the kickstand and shift through your gears. You'll want to go up and down the cassette a few times. Now that you've applied the lubricant to the chain, you've worked through the gears, it's going to be super important on this last step to clean off all the excess lube from the outside of the chain. So go ahead and spin the cranks and find that spot on the chain where you see a lot of that excess lube. Go ahead and wipe it down. Again, pedal forward. Be careful. The wheel might be moving, and you want to make sure you're not going to hit a knuckle or finger in the spokes. After you go through a couple passes and clean off that outside of the chain, and everything looks nice and clean, you're ready for your next ride. So in closing, I just want to be clear about one thing. It's not about the intervals on making sure your drivetrain is clean. It's really about doing that preventative maintenance to make sure that your chain and your cassette are going to last quite a bit longer. If you do neglect this, you can notice that the dirt, the debris, the sand, the snow, the ice, those things will deteriorate your actual drivetrain, and it's not going to last as long. So listen for it, look at it. If it looks like it's dirty or you can hear it when you're riding down the road, it's time to clean it. If you have any questions on this process, feel free to email us at info@reconpowerbikes.com. Thanks.